Hey guys, welcome back to the second tutorial, if you will, or episode in this playlist of Apple Motion and Apprenticeship. So in episode 1, I covered sort of the interface tutorial, and we threw up onto the screen a bit of text. We also put on towards the end of the clip, we put on a video screen with the graphic that you can see on the, and that was to mainly illustrate that this is the canvas and we've got sort of some options in terms of what content we can put on there. Now that content, as I mentioned in that first episode, is a lot. Once we're sort of happy with the content that we're going to use, and it's probably a good thing to mention, like I'm in the sort of travel niche, so my YouTube channel is going to be heavily focused around travel and videography. So when it comes to the content for my graphics and so forth, it's good to narrow it down to whatever your niche is. You may be in the tech sector, you may be doing baking, I don't know, filmmaking, whatever the case may be. That is sort of going to define your content that you're going to be using, because that's got to complement your story and video. So with the content sort of being covered, and it will be a good idea, like I said, to play around with all these different categories. Your content might choose, you might want a particular background or a drawing, whatever the case may be. Make sure you're quite happy with what that is. The next thing we're going to look at is behaviors in its most basic form. So I'm just going to deselect these things to give us a nice clean canvas over here, and we can create a new group, right? And I will just call this one behaviors. Okay, so now we can play and put our content into behaviors. And all I'm going to be doing is using some shapes as an example. Actually, I won't even use those shapes. I'll just use the shapes down here. Let's just take a basic rectangle, pop it up on the screen. Let's take a basic circle, put a circle there too. And let's use maybe a line over here, something along those lines. Now we can, if we select the rectangle, go to our inspector. Let's just use the outline, it's just easier to see. And let's leave that one maybe solid and leave that one solid. So let us now unpack in its entirety what the behaviors can do. Okay, so for the benefit of this tutorial, I'm going to be looking at some of these basic motions here. This is just for my benefit, to give me sort of an idea as to what sort of basic movements one can organize between these different elements. Of course, if you look at all 232 items there are some, no doubt, complex motions that can be achieved in your project. But for the sake of this tutorial, let's just look at some of these basics, because once I think we can understand the basics, and then we can practice and get more and more complicated as we need to be for whatever project. So let us say we want to get, this one says align to, align an object to another, so it's going to give us a little bit of a graphic there as to what we're going to do. So let us align this circle here to that rectangle, for example. So we can then click on the align tool and drag it over to our circle. Okay, now you can drag it up over here, or you can drag it down here. I've got into the habit of doing it up here, but either or does not matter. So now we've got our align to a motion in over there, all right? And we want to keep it reasonably short. All right, and we let it start there. That's quite fine. I'm quite happy with that. So now we have to, once we've clicked on our align to, go to our inspector, and it's going to say, well, what is it you want to align to? So we're going to go and say, well, we want to align to this rectangle. click on that and then drag our rectangle into that box over there. Right? And now it's saying, okay, fair enough, cool. Where do you want to align? To the center, to the left, or to the right? Let's just say we want to align it to the right. Okay, that's cool. And then to the rectangle, also we want that to be to the right. And let's just see, actually let's go left. Yep, to the left, and we can see how that now works. I like to click off here, press that and play, and there you can see ping. Alright, so I've just moved our line 2 here just down a little bit just to give an illustration, and it sort of pays to mention that if you would like this circle to stay to the left of that rectangle for the duration of the clip, then obviously you simply have to just extend the align 2 to the end of the clip. Right? And for the duration of that clip, it will no doubt stay there. But for the purpose of this tutorial, let's keep that align 2 nice and short so we can get a whole lot of motions in here for the purposes of this example. So now we've got that align 2 looked at and sorted. Let's move our play to about there. And let's just say, okay, let's select our circle again. We would like this one to grow and shrink. Yeah, let's use the grow and shrink. And once again, you can drag that down to the circle. Okay. So now you've got your grow and shrink, and you can move it to wherever the play it is. And let's keep this one also nice and short. Right. So now nothing should happen because we haven't defined any parameters in terms of the grow and shrink. So what we have to do is move our plate over the ground sheet, select it, then go to our inspector, and now we can choose our scaling that we wanted to do. Let's say we wanted to go to 80%. So what will happen is over the duration over there, it will grow to 80% and shrink back down to its original size again. So that is another beautiful example of some basic motion using the different preset options available. So let us have a look at motion path quickly. Similar arrangement, simply click on your motion path, grab it to your circle, and as you can see, our first one was aligned to, our grow shrink one was next, and now we've got a motion path that we would like to. If you're ever in the situation where you see your red line extends past the screen here, simply go to your fit, your percentage here, and hit the 50%, and it'll bring it down to you. Then you can select it and move it to your heart's content. So once again, we move our play head to over there. We want our motion path to start at this point over here. We don't want it to run to the end. We want it to go to there, but we would like to maybe make this bigger again. We would like our motion path to go to, let's say, there. So what we do now is hit play, ping. I beg your pardon. What you have to do is go back, get it to start from there, and now it'll move to there. So bear in mind, it'll only move from the beginning of the motion path, and it'll make sure it's reached our dot, our destination, while on the purple segment. If we extend the purple segment, for example, it'll simply move slower and take longer to get there. But it'll, you see? And then similarly, if we move it all the way down to the bottom, right, it'll simply take longer to get there. So that's a good illustration of some basic motion. Alright, so we're going to stay with some behaviors here. We looked at some basic motion. Now we're going to have a look at some text as an element and just see what we can do with our text, just as an example. So the easiest way to get some text on our canvas, I simply hit the T, go to our canvas and type manipulate. Could have chosen an easier word, some text, and enter. So that'll have there, and as you can see, it's automatically created a new group for us. By default, the system, when it sees you working with text, it'll create a group. When it sees you working with any particular individualized or different component, it'll tend to make a group. So all you then have to go back is click on it, give it a little bit of a light click and a hold, and then change that to your text. You can call it text or text group, whatever you prefer. But it's very, very good practice to start naming your individual groups and keeping them nicely organized. It becomes real cluttered, this project pane, when you can imagine a very, very complex project that you may be working on. So now you've got your manipulate text in there. If you want to change the size of this, not necessarily the font, the size, make sure you hold down the shift key before you select it. That way it will maintain its proportions. So that's one way of getting text in there. Just on the topic of text, you can go to your left over here and see text styles, and you can simply grab one of these and then drag it onto, you make sure you have your pane open and simply drag it onto there, and it'll change the text for you. I'm not going to do that for the time being, but I thought I would just mention that. Go to text styles, and then you can very, very quickly just select the style that appeals to you. So let us move back to our library, back to our behaviors. We were on basic motion. We're going to do a little bit of text animation. We played around with some basic motion. I'm just sticking to the basics here, guys, because like I said, this is an apprenticeship. I'm learning too. And when you teach and when you record and when you speak like this, you learn twice. So let's just look at this text animation. Scroll text on the top there. That's reasonably straightforward what's going to happen over there. And we can change it to that. Sequence text, that's going to happen. So once again, we select the behavior we would like to happen, click on it, and we drag it to our text. Alright, so we've got our text animation, sequence text in there. We've got our behavior sorted. I'm just going to switch these previous tutorials off just so the screen is nice and clean. So what happens typically once you've dragged a behavior, we can come over to the inspector, and as you can see, right, we've selected our behavior, and now our sequence text parameters is in here. This is where we get to manipulate what it is we want this text to do, what behavior we would like it to do. So guys, I will need to remember to mention that whenever we add a behavior to our project pane, it also populates the timeline down here, because a lot of the time this is where we're actually doing quite a bit of the manipulation. So example, we just added that sequence text behavior to our manipulate some text word box. And as you know, I'd like to let my behavior, for the purpose of this tutorial, start a little bit later. Once again, this is where we get to manipulate the length of anything that is in the timeline and effectively on our canvas. Our timeline is where we get to manipulate those things. It's very, very important that we understand that. So as you can see, we've put in a sequence text, but nothing is happening because we haven't defined what that sequence is. So seeing that they've got color in here as a parameter, let's add it, and all we're going to do here is maybe change that color to red, for example. So what should happen now is that text should change red as we scroll over. There we go, in sequence. So that's in its simplest form what manipulating text looks like. This particular example shows some color, but there's a plethora of other parameters that we can do. We can change the position, the scale, the rotation, the tracking. We can change the opacity, the outline, the glow, and as you can see, the behaviors and this behavior panel is very, very powerful. One thing I like to do, just to keep things neat and tidy. I like to keep these things closed, right, and then show and hide them as I use it. And just to me, it keeps things nice and neat and tidy, and I can go through things one at a time. Look, it's a lot neater this way. So I thought that's a good example of manipulating some text at its most simple and basic level. Alright guys, so we're coming to the end of this tutorial, but to be a bit more thorough, I thought it pays for me to mention in your behavior, once you've selected your particular behavior, you need to have a look at these controls below here, because it does give you some options in manipulating the set behavior, some very, very basic ones. For example, the animation, at the moment we've got it by default, it selects by character. So what that means is as you scroll through, each individual letter is going to change from red to white. Or if you change it from character to word, every single word as we move through the sequence will change. You see the full word change, then some, and then text. So you've got that option. You also got line. In our case, we've only got one line, so I can't use that. Or you can use all. So it really pays to have a look at these controls and then excuse me, play around with them to make sure you understand what it is. My understanding of spread, the way it looks like, is if you move it up, for example, it is how long it's going to take for the behavior to take effect, over what sort of spread, over what sort of period. As you can see, is a little white line in our duration over there, and when I move the spread, you can see that white line actually moves. So that's my understanding of spread. There's some obvious ones like direction, speed, if you want the speed to be constant, ease in and ease out, loops. So the objective behind these tutorials is to just introduce you to the interface, introduce you to the behavior, introduce you and make you aware of the controls. Your skills are only going to improve when you really start playing with and manipulating these controls. That's where the learning comes in, and it becomes very, very powerful, very, very comprehensive once you really understand what it is you want to do. You know the niche you're playing in, you know the content that you want to use, you know the visual picture you're trying to portray, and then it simply becomes down to doing project 1 right through to project 1000, and imagine what it's going to look like when you at the 1000 mark. So I hope that sort of makes sense for this particular one. Hi guys, I'm really enjoying making these videos. I'm really enjoying the committing to an apprenticeship in Apple Motion. I'm inspired by some of the content that's out there, some of the skills that's out there, some of the YouTubers. What they're creating is nothing short of spectacular. I've sort of been making videos for the last few years now. You can see on the screen my Vimeo channel is there. I've sort of used Vimeo more in the past than I have YouTube. I am getting a lot more active on YouTube now. But Vimeo, I sort of found quite a lot of creators on there that I like. And I've got about 39 videos that I've made, and I really want to push that and make some more. The niche I'm playing in is travel videos. Well, getting to travel and pretty much building a YouTube channel around how possible is it to sort of sustain an income using YouTube, using affiliate marketing, using any sort of online presence. How sustainable is it? What sort of income can one get? That's sort of one aspect of what my channel is going to cover. The second one is filmmaking tutorials, making better videos. What is the best and the most efficient and effective way to get these skills that we need? I started a blog called Aperture to Zoom, and that's, as the name implies, I want to sort of cover everything, in terms of Aperture to Zoom, weave our skills together to firstly put together this amazing videos. That to me is like the canvas. Any sort of graphics that come on top of, or compositions that support the footage, is obviously going to help the cause. But unless and until we've got that initial fantastic video, the graphics are only going to take it so far. So that's the second sort of thing my YouTube channel is going to cover. It is how can we get our skills up there in terms of making a visual impact. So there's two ways we can do this. We can spend a time doing the apprenticeship, going through the tutorials step by step, or we can buy pre-purchase compositions or plugins or templates. It comes down to what it is you individually need. So I'm sort of at that place where I need to start investigating, because quite frankly I don't have the time to always be spending making these tutorials. There's a lot of work involved in building YouTube. There's a lot of learning that commences, and we got to be wise as to where we spend our time. I would rather be out there filming travel videos. I didn't necessarily sign up to be a graphic artist, although I think it's nice to know some basics, nice to know how to get things into, import things into Final Cut, and so on and so forth. But I will commit as much as I can, grow my skills as much as I can, but not necessarily end up being a full-on motion graphic artist. So look, with that being said, I've included a little video which I used to inspire me. It's in the travel niche. My videos are nothing close to this yet, but we need to have a place that we're aiming for. And like I said, I'm going to be tagging as many of these videos as I can onto each tutorial to keep you inspired, keep you moving forward, give you some ideas as to what can be done. It's going to take a lot of work to get to that point. Make no mistake about that. There's going to be a huge learning curve. And like I said, either we're going to invest our time or we're going to invest our dollars, one of the two. So look, excuse me, I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope that makes sense. It's winter here in Auckland, so everybody's croaking in some way, shape or form, either through the nose or the cough or whatever the case may be. But hey, look, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please consider subscribing. I've put a link down to Motion VFX's website. It is an affiliate link. So I do earn a small commission once you click on that link and decide to make a purchase. It doesn't change the price in any way, shape or form. It doesn't increase the price in any way, shape. It's just a commission for promoting that particular product. So like I said, if it serves you and you're in a hurry, you want to get something done and you want to get cracking, then by all means consider using that link. Also, have a look at my Vimeo account. Like I said, it's beginner to intermediate. I make no apologies for that, because we all got to start somewhere. I was watching a video on Casey Neistat, and I think he said he's done over 800 videos. I'm at video number 39, and I'm sure there are people that have done a lot more. So the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And this, so far with this Apple Motion tutorial, we've taken step number 2. Imagine where we're going to be when we take step number 200 or 300. So like I said, if you're new to it and you want it broken down into bite-sized chunks, that's my specialty. I learn in bite-sized chunks. Yes, there's a lot of better tutorials out there, absolutely. There's a lot of people with a hell of a lot more skills, no argument there. But this is me. This is how I unpack things, small bite-sized chunks, designed so that I can digest things, I can record things, I can go back to things, and more importantly, I can share it with you. So I hope you get the spirit of what it is I'm trying to achieve here, and I look forward to engaging with you in some way, shape or form through the comments. Maybe jump onto my website, Aperture to Zoom. That's also quite basic, but like I said, it's going to be progressing, moving forward. It is a lot of work, guys. That's all I can say. If there's no get rich quick schemes, maybe with the exception of Lotto, but that's not a scheme. There are no get rich quick schemes. There is work to get rich quick schemes. It is as simple as that. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Over and out. One of the things I've been told is I waffle too much. I need to shorten these videos, but I don't care. I can't start off being perfect. I'll work my way to perfection. In fact, I'll work my way to progress rather than perfection. Over and out. Chat you in the next one.